My parents put my name on my brother's $300,000 mortgage without telling me. So, I took action that left them facing a consequence they never imagined. I am a 31-year-old female data analyst for a Fortune 500 company in Denver, Colorado. I make around $152,000 plus annual bonuses. I grew up working class but fought tooth and nail to get where I am. I earned a full scholarship to University of Colorado Boulder, graduated magna cum laude with a degree in statistics, and have been steadily climbing the corporate ladder ever since. My family dynamic has always been messy. Dad worked construction until his back gave out 5 years ago. Mom was a school secretary until she retired last year. They're good people at heart, but they have one glaring weakness. My younger brother Marcus. Marcus is 27 and has been a gambling addict since college. It started with fantasy football leagues, escalated to weekend trips to Black Hawk casinos, then online poker, and eventually grew into a full-blown addiction where he'd bet on anything. Sports, stocks, cryptocurrency. The man once lost $3,000 betting on the weather forecast. He's blown through a $25,000 inheritance from our grandfather, maxed out 8 different credit cards, and borrowed money from every friend gullible enough to trust him. But gambling addicts are master manipulators. Marcus could convince you that losing money was actually an investment strategy if it meant getting cash for his next bet. I've watched him spin elaborate stories about sure-thing stock tips, sob stories about needing money for car repairs that were really just covers for his latest betting sprees, and detailed explanations about how his losses were just temporary setbacks before his big breakthrough. Our parents believed every word. He's getting help now. He's seeing a counselor. This time is different. I'd heard it all before. That's why I moved to Denver after graduation and kept my financial distance. I'd send money for birthdays and holidays, but I learned early not to get entangled in Marcus's financial disasters. Every time I tried to help, the money just vanished into some betting app or casino. It was a Wednesday morning at 8:15 a.m. I'm sitting in my Honda CR-V in downtown Denver traffic when my phone rings. Unknown number with a Colorado Springs area code. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but our company was expecting calls from potential clients about a major analytics contract. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Kevin from Mountain View Mortgage Solutions. I'm calling regarding your mortgage account for the property at 4751 Cascade Ridge Drive. Your account is now 75 days past due, and we need to discuss immediate payment to avoid foreclosure proceedings. I pulled into a Target parking lot, my heart pounding like a drum. Sir, I think you have the wrong number. I don't have a mortgage with your company. Ms. Rodriguez, according to our records, you co-signed for a $300,000 mortgage in March of last year. The property is registered to Marcus Rodriguez with you listed as the co-signer and guarantor. My blood turned to ice. Cascade Ridge Drive was in Colorado Springs, about an hour from where my parents lived. I knew that neighborhood. One of those new suburban developments with cookie-cutter houses in the $350,000 range. Way beyond anything Marcus could afford on his sporadic income from whatever warehouse job he managed to keep for a few weeks at a time. Sir, I never co-signed anything. I've never even heard of your company. I understand your confusion, Ms. Rodriguez, but we have all the documentation. Your signature, social security number, employment verification from Data Tech Analytics, income statements. The loan was approved based on your creditworthiness as the co-signer. This is fraud. I need you to email me every document immediately. He hesitated. Ma'am, I can't just email sensitive financial documents without proper verification. Listen carefully. If someone forged my signature for a $300,000 loan, this is a federal crime. Either you email me those documents right now, or I'm calling the FBI, and your company becomes part of a criminal investigation. That got his attention. After verifying my identity, the documents hit my inbox 20 minutes later. I sat in that Target parking lot staring at my phone screen in complete shock. There was my name printed clearly. Alice Maria Rodriguez. My social security number, correct. My employment information, company name correct, job title correct, salary accurate. A signature that looked remarkably like mine. even a copy of my driver's license. But I had never seen these documents before in my life. The mortgage was for a 2-story house in Colorado Springs. The borrower Marcus Rodriguez. The cosigner me. Loan amount: $300,000 with monthly payments of $2,387. The down payment had been $30,000. Someone had called Datateca's HR department pretending to be a loan officer and verified my employment, salary, and tenure. The documentation looked completely legitimate, but something felt off about the signature. I zoomed in on my phone screen. The signature looked close, but the way I crossed my T's was slightly different. The loop in my A was too small. Someone had practiced my signature, probably using examples from birthday cards or Christmas checks I'd sent home over the years. I called in sick and drove straight to my parents' house. This couldn't wait. I didn't call ahead, just showed up at 11 a.m. with printed documents and my recording app ready. Mom answered the door in her cleaning clothes, looking surprised. "Alice, honey, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at work? We need to talk. Where's Dad? Where's Marcus? Your father is at Lowe's buying supplies for the garage project. Marcus said he had a job interview this morning." Classic mom, always making excuses for Marcus. A job interview that probably didn't exist. Call them both. Tell them to get here immediately. Mom's face went pale. She knew that tone. I'd used it exactly twice before. Once when I caught Marcus stealing money from Dad's wallet to place bets, and once when I discovered they'd been covering his credit card payments. Dad arrived first, walking through the door with that confused expression he wore whenever family drama interrupted his projects. "Alice, what's going on?" Your mother sounded panicked. I spread the mortgage documents across their kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten Sunday dinners for 20 years, where Dad had helped me with algebra homework, where Mom had taught me to budget my first job's paycheck. "I need one of you to explain how Marcus got a $300,000 mortgage with me as co-signer when I never signed anything." The silence was deafening. Dad's face drained of color. Mom sat down heavily, her coffee mug trembling. "Alice," Dad started then stopped. "Just tell me the truth. Right now." Mom started crying. We didn't know what else to do. Marcus was about to be evicted from his apartment. The mortgage company said he needed a co-signer with better credit and steady income. "So you forged my signature." "We didn't forge anything," Dad said quickly. "We signed for you as your parents. We thought we had the right." "You thought you had the right." "Dad, I'm 31 years old. I haven't lived under your roof for 13 years. You have no right to sign my name to anything." "You would have said no," Mom whispered. "You're damn right I would have said no." That's when Marcus walked in. He took one look at the papers spread across the table, and his face told me everything. No surprise, just resignation. "Oh, this is about the house." "Yeah, Marcus. The $300,000 house you bought using my credit without permission." He shrugged and grabbed a Pepsi from the refrigerator like we were discussing weekend plans. "I was going to tell you eventually. You were going to tell me that you committed fraud." "It's not fraud, Alice. Or family. Besides, I've been making the payments." He popped open the soda with that same entitled attitude he'd had since high school. I looked at the bank notice in my hand. "Marcus, you're 75 days behind. That's temporary. I had some unexpected losses last month, but I just started this new warehouse job, and they're paying overtime rates." Unexpected losses. "Marcus, are you seriously telling me you're behind on mortgage payments because you were gambling?" Dad stepped in. "Alice, you don't understand. Marcus has been working really hard to turn his life around. He's been attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. This house is an investment in his future." "An investment?" "Dad, he can't afford the mortgage payments. He's already defaulting." "It's not defaulting," Marcus said defensively. "It's a temporary cash flow problem. I've been developing this betting system for college basketball. Do you know how much money professional sports bettors make? I'm getting really close to cracking the code." I stared at my brother. He was completely serious. In his mind, he was some kind of mathematical genius on the verge of a breakthrough, not a gambling addict who had just defaulted on a fraudulent mortgage. Marcus, how much do you owe in credit card debt right now? He looked at Mom and Dad, then back at me. Maybe around $47,000, but that's mostly strategic debt. You have to spend money to make money in professional gambling. $47,000. Alice, please don't raise your voice, Mom said. The neighbors will hear. Mom, I don't care about the neighbors. Your son owes $47,000 in credit card debt, and he's defaulting on a mortgage that he fraudulently put in my name. We'll figure it out, Dad said as always. We always do. No, we won't. I'm calling the bank and telling them this was fraud. You can't do that, Mom said, panicking. Marcus could go to jail. Good. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. Marcus finally looked worried. Alice, come on. Family doesn't do that to family. Family doesn't commit fraud against family either. Look, I'll catch up on the payments. Just give me a couple months. This new job is solid, and I'm really close to perfecting my betting system. I just need to stay disciplined. I started packing up the documents. Marcus, you've been about to strike it rich for 9 years. You've never had steady income. You're an addict. I'm not an addict. I'm a strategic investor who's had some setbacks. Dad, I said, what if I helped with payments? Your mother and I could take out a second mortgage on this house. Use our retirement savings. Dad, you're on a fixed income. You can't afford a $2,387 mortgage payment. We'll figure something out. I'm calling the bank tomorrow and reporting this as fraud. Then I'm calling the police. Mom started crying harder. Please don't send your brother to jail. Mom, Marcus sent himself to jail the minute he forged my signature. We forged your signature, Dad said quietly. If anyone goes to jail, it should be us. I looked at my father, this man who had worked construction for 35 years, who taught me about honesty, who had never taken shortcuts his entire life. Dad, why? Why would you do this? Because he's our son, Alice. And sometimes you do stupid things for your kids when you love them, even if it destroys your other child's life. Dad looked down at his hands. We thought you'd never find out. We thought Marcus would get his act together and make the payments. I stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? Mass. To get a lawyer and call the FBI. Alice, please, Marcus said, following me. Just give me one more chance. I'll go to rehab. I'll get financial counseling. Whatever you want. I turned around. Marcus, how many one more chances have you had? How many times have Mom and Dad bailed you out? This is different. It's always different, Marcus. But it's never actually different. I walked out and drove home, but I didn't call the FBI that night. Instead, I sat up until 3 a.m. researching mortgage fraud, cosigner liability, and my legal options. What I discovered was going to change everything. The next morning, I took another sick day and drove to downtown Denver to meet with an attorney who specialized in financial fraud. The consultation cost $650, but it was the best money I'd ever spent. The law office was in one of those glass downtown towers, all marble floors and framed law degrees. My attorney was a sharp woman in her 50s, expensive suit, the kind of person who'd probably sent white-collar criminals to federal prison. Ms. Rodriguez, she said after reviewing all the documents, this is textbook mortgage fraud. Your signature was forged, your income was misrepresented without consent, and you never agreed to co-sign. This is a federal crime with serious penalties. What are my options? You can report it as fraud and have authorities investigate and prosecute your family members. You'll be removed from the loan and won't be legally responsible for the debt. And if I don't report it, then you're legally responsible for a $300,000 mortgage on a house you don't own, don't live in, and never wanted. If your brother defaults, which he already has, the bank can come after you personally for the full amount plus penalties and interest. Can they garnish my wages? Absolutely. They can take your house, your car, freeze your bank accounts, destroy your credit rating. You'd be financially devastated. Given your income, they'd probably garnish the maximum amount allowed until the debt is satisfied. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I researched Marcus's online activity and gambling patterns. What I found made me physically sick. Marcus had active accounts on at least 12 different gambling websites. His social media was full of posts about big wins, followed immediately by posts about being broke and needing prayers. I found a Reddit forum where people discussed gambling addiction and debt problems. Marcus had posted there under a username I recognized from his old gaming accounts. One post from 10 months ago read, "My sister makes bank but she's super cheap with family. How do I get her to help without asking directly? Need strategies." Another post from 7 months ago. "Is it illegal if your parents co-sign something using someone else's name? Asking for a friend." And the most damaging one from 4 months ago. "Successfully got approved for major loan using family members' credit. Now I just need to keep making payments until my system pays off. What are the odds they find out?" He had been planning this for months. This wasn't desperation. This was calculated fraud, and my parents had helped him execute it. That's when I realized this wasn't just addiction. This was premeditated identity theft. The next morning I called Kevin at Mountain View Mortgage back. "Mr. Kevin, this is Alice Rodriguez. I called about the mortgage fraud." "Yes, Ms. Rodriguez. Have you reviewed the documents?" "I have, and I need to report this as identity theft and fraud. I never signed those documents, never applied for that loan, and never gave permission for anyone to use my name or personal information." "Ma'am, that's a very serious accusation with significant legal implications." "Yes, it is. What's your procedure for reporting this type of fraud?" "We'd need to launch an internal investigation. You'd need to file a formal fraud report with us and with law enforcement. We'd also need to involve our legal department and potentially federal authorities." "What happens to the current loan during investigation?" "The account would be frozen immediately pending the outcome." "And what happens to the borrower, my brother?" "If fraud is confirmed, the loan would be declared null and void. The property would go into immediate foreclosure proceedings." "I understand. I'd like to file that fraud report today. But before I went to the bank, I decided to make one final trip to see my family. I wanted to give them a chance to confess voluntarily and show genuine remorse. I found Dad working in his garage, Mom doing laundry, and Marcus on their couch playing video games like nothing had happened. "I'm going to the bank this afternoon to file a fraud report," I announced. Marcus looked up from his game. "You're really going to do this? Even though it'll destroy the whole family?" "Marcus, you destroyed the family when you committed fraud against me." "It wasn't supposed to be fraud. It was supposed to be temporary. Just until my betting system started paying off consistently." "How was stealing my identity supposed to be temporary?" Mom came out of the laundry room looking worried. "Alice, what if we all went to the bank together and explained the situation? Maybe they'd work with us as a family." "Mom, the situation is that you committed a federal crime." "But we're family," Dad said, emerging from the garage. "Families work things out together." "Dad, if I don't report this, I'm responsible for Marcus's mortgage forever. If he stops paying, and he already has, they can take everything I own to satisfy the debt." "We won't let that happen," Mom said desperately. "How? You're going to pay a $2,387 mortgage every month on your retirement income." Marcus stood up from the couch, finally looking serious. "I told you I've got this new job. I'm going to get caught up on everything." "Marcus, you've been saying that for 9 years. When have you ever gotten caught up on anything long-term? This time is different. I'm really controlling my gambling now. I've got this system that's been working." "It's never different, Marcus. You're addicted. You need professional help." "I don't need help. I need my family to support me instead of trying to destroy me." I looked around at these 3 people who had raised me, taught me right from wrong, and somehow convinced themselves that stealing my identity was acceptable because it was for family. I'm going to the bank, I said. I'm filing the fraud report, and then I'm calling the FBI. That afternoon, I walked into Mountain View Mortgage with a folder full of evidence and my phone recording everything. Kevin met me in a conference room with 2 other bank officials, a manager and someone from their legal department. Ms. Rodriguez, Kevin said, we appreciate you coming in to discuss this situation. Before we start, I said, I want to make sure we're all clear about what we're discussing. Someone used my identity to fraudulently obtain a $300,000 mortgage loan. This is a federal crime. The legal representative nodded. We understand the gravity of the allegation. I opened my folder and methodically laid out my evidence. Detailed work records showing I was at a data analytics conference in Seattle the day the loan was supposedly signed. A professional forensic signature analysis I'd paid $1,200 for, proving the signatures didn't match my verified samples. Screenshots from Marcus's social media showing him posting about his new place. Bank records showing the down payment came from my parents' savings account. Printouts of Marcus's Reddit posts discussing the fraud scheme months in advance. This is quite thorough, the manager said, looking increasingly uncomfortable. I'm a data analyst. I believe in comprehensive documentation and evidence. Ms. Rodriguez, the legal person said, assuming we confirm fraud occurred, what outcome are you seeking? I want my name removed from this loan immediately. I want it reported to appropriate authorities as fraud, and I want to ensure this never happens to me or anyone else again. We can certainly remove you from the loan if fraud is confirmed, but you understand this would trigger immediate foreclosure proceedings. I understand. And your brother would lose the house. I understand. And your family would likely face serious criminal charges. I understand that too. Kevin leaned forward. Ms. Rodriguez, this seems like a family matter that got out of hand. Are you sure you want to pursue this to the fullest extent? That's when I gave them the response that left them speechless. Let me tell you what I'm sure about, I said, looking each of them directly in the eye. I'm sure that my brother is a gambling addict who has systematically destroyed his credit by betting every dollar he's ever earned. I'm sure that my parents helped him commit fraud because they're enablers who have been covering for his addiction for years instead of getting him real help. I'm sure that if I don't report this crime, I'll be financially responsible for a mortgage on a house I'll never live in for a debt I never agreed to take on. Paused and pulled out my phone. But here's what I'm most sure about. 3 hours ago, I called the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and filed a formal complaint. Special Agent Martinez is expecting your call within 24 hours. The room went dead silent. I also called the Colorado Division of Banking and filed a complaint about your lending practices. How exactly does a reputable mortgage company approve a $300,000 loan without properly verifying that the co-signer actually signed the documents? The manager's face went pale. And one more thing, I continued calmly. I called the district attorney's office and spoke with the prosecutor who handles mortgage fraud cases. They're very interested in this case, especially the part where my brother documented his plans on social media months before committing the actual fraud. I stood up and closed my folder. So yes, I'm absolutely sure I want to pursue this to the fullest extent, because the only thing worse than being the victim of a crime is being the victim of a crime and doing nothing about it. 4 months later, all 3 of them pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges. Marcus got 4 years in federal prison. My parents each got 2 years. The bank foreclosed on Marcus's house. I bought it at auction for $267,000, renovated it for $22,000, and now rent it out for $3,200 a month to a wonderful young family. Every month when I deposit that rental check, I remember something important. Enablers only exist when their victims allow them to. I didn't allow them, and now they live with the consequences while I profit from their crime. Sometimes justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about turning your attackers' weapons against them. They used my identity to commit fraud. I used their fraud to build wealth. The house they stole my name to buy now pays me more in monthly rent than my car payment. And every time I drive past that neighborhood, I smile knowing that their betrayal became my blessing. Because that's what happens when you mess with someone who believes in consequences.